Hello everyone, Fifi and Sam here for another Midweek Musings. How are you doing?
Yeah, yeah. I'm all right. I've had some better days and I've had some worse days. It's all a bit, yeah, up and down at the moment. But I'm hanging in there, doing what I can. Um, yeah, it's a funny thing, isn't it? Life.
That's one
How
word.
are you doing?
I'm about the same as you. It is like a fucking roller coaster at the moment. It's just, it's very intense, and I know a lot of other people are feeling it.
Yeah. Do you know
It's
what? There's a lot of us. I know from sort of posts I've done, I've been kind of just pouring my guts out online. And I had a lot of people, so many, in our kind of community saying that they're really feeling it too. So I've come to the conclusion there is definitely, some sort of energy surge or switch or something going on that's sort of, really kind of affecting us, those that can see it's affecting us. But it's nice though, I think that as a collective we're all kind of going, yeah, this is mental, this is insane, I'm really struggling, but you know what, we've got each other, we're gonna be okay. It's quite a nice feeling to, not that other people are suffering, obviously, I take no joy in that.
no.
But just, that we are a collective and we're all having, obviously all experiences are unique and will play out in our own lives, but that, collectively we're experienced and we're all kind of, sharing in our own way and putting out a hand to say, I'm here, I've got you, big hugs all around, it's nice.
Yeah, it's one of the blessings, isn't it, of having our tribes. And I do think there's this push to awaken. And like I've said before, I don't, the Great Awakening, whatever people want to call it, is way beyond just waking up to um, the control system and what's behind it. Is part of it very much, but it's realizing what we actually are. And so I think when you're feeling, it gets to the point where it's so unbearable, it's not actually possible to carry on, to keep on living in this fear and anxiety and uncertainty. And if it was natural to live that way, to be that way, there wouldn't be any discomfort. It's, we're being pushed to go deeper, and I think this is certainly what I've been experiencing. I know you have, and a lot of people. It's actually, we're being forced to confront our own worst fears, which they'll all take on different guises for all of us, but actually the root causes are essentially the same thing. um Fear of death is the most prevailing, I would say, when you kind of pick apart these fears and of the future, and what actually, if you keep going with it, what lies at the bottom. And it generally is that that you're going to lose everything, that you're, the lack of control, all of these things, because we're so disconnected from what we really are, which cannot die, which cannot be affected, harmed. And I think it's, yeah, as things get more and more intense, we realize um, we're all in this together, but we all face it alone in that sense. In the end, we can face down our fears alone.
I think as well as, I mean, I can't, I don't, I keep going. I've got this inner thing where I'm jumping from one thing to the other. I've got to say I've let go of a lot of fears, but there's I think that the realization that we've all had over the last couple of years that actually we're a lot more responsible for ourselves, our health, our mental well-being, the path we take in life, the way that we live, that actually, there's an element of really pushing ourselves in a way to really step up and step into this personal responsibility, that actually we can sit here and we can list the problems with our current systems, which are abundant. There's loads, but actually there are still so many ways that we can all be doing things to make it better. But for so many, well, for generations, there's been gradually taking away of this personal responsibility, that the system in whichever way it kind of presents itself will fix these issues for you, be it with pills, be it with a certain belief system, be it with benefits, or whatever it may be. There's this reliance on this system and it will give you what you need. And obviously right now we're in a place where those systems are crumbling, quite spectacularly, and I think we're all learning that there's a lot of things that have been hidden from us, and actually there are a lot kind of better, fulfilling ways to live, and actually that's never going to be something the system is going to give us. That's actually something that we have to take responsibility for. We have to chase that, we have to hunt that down, grab it with both hands and move into it. And I think for a lot of us that's a really, really scary thing to do. And perhaps I mean, that's part of it for me, is finding that right direction, and how am I gonna make my life better? How am I gonna move away from this negative influence of the world? Gonna improve my well-being, my health, my life, my children's lives? What can I do? And there are so many ways. It's a lot, and it's new, and it's yeah. I think that's some of it. A lot of what's kind of going on for me at the moment is just trying to, I mean, we touched on it a bit last week when we sort of did our soul splurging of feeling rubbish, but there is that uncertainty, that not knowing, that and my better days have been days where I've kind of had that acceptance. There's been this kind of this wisdom that I have acquired. It's there somewhere, but there's this wisdom of just letting go, and being accepting that it is what it is, and I will find my way. And actually a lot probably of my problems, and perhaps a lot of people's problems, to overthink and overanalyze, and then overthink our overthinking, and then
Judge ourselves for
in a
it.
loop.
Yeah, and then we beat ourselves up for overthinking, and it just goes on and on and on. But I mean, when you actually look at all of this, it's very, very simple. But yes, we overcomplicate and we analyze, and we just get on this absolute, it's like a hamster wheel. It just goes on and on and on, and you can't seem to get off. But really it's being held by your emotions, your feelings, so if that's fear, which seems to be the overriding one, it is like you're trapped, and that's what they're using. For anybody who's fearless, if you can, like we keep talking about, the sort of radical acceptance as being the first step. It's like, right, well, this is it. Stop fighting against whether it should have happened, and this doesn't just mean what's playing out there at the moment with the whole situation that's coming to a huge head. it's anything in your life, anything that you've got that clutching, that clenching, that the anxiety. That's what I've been going through a lot, and it's very physical. You know, it's like having an iron band around my chest at times, and unable to take a full breath. If I can accept that that band is there, it releases a bit. I'm not fighting against it. If I can accept the reason that the band is,
That makes me think of that Chinese finger thingy. You know, where you put your fingers in,
yeah,
and the more you try and pull it out,
that's
like the
it.
tighter it gets, and the more you're like, ah, I'm stuck.
Energy. That's
And
it.
then, but if you just
Relax and just, yeah, and it's, I mean, not even relax. It kind of, that's the byproduct, but it is that stopping fighting against something being how we don't want it to be. That is that first, you feel it instantly, because that battle, you're not up against that brick wall of trying to change something that you actually got no idea how, like where on earth would you start, and that gets you even more entrenched in the fear. But you know, if you can see that it's actually, there's nothing there's nothing actually playing out anywhere that has got any kind of inherent power to it, in the it's completely how we perceive it. And that's the difference between the people who really suffer intensely and the ones who, you know, looking at the same thing or experiencing the same thing, and those that they're just not caught in that. They're okay, whatever happens. And this is the ultimate superpower. Forget, you know, all these like materializing things out of thin air and flying and being invisible, all of it can
love to be able to fly, wouldn't
be
you?
amazing. Yeah, definitely. But the ultimate,
Sorry.
to be completely immovable in that sense, is it's kind of where we're all being pushed to go. So we're not in this constant battle, this toing and froing, you know, attachments and aversions, as Buddha taught, you know, that we're just constantly being swept. And I think we're seeing that with things being so extreme, that you just get to a point where you think, oh, I can't, it's not possible to live in this state of heightened fear and anxiety long term.
Yeah.
So for those of us that have got another way of kind of perceiving outside, knowing that it's possible to live it differently, to experience things differently, it's kind of like the push. It's the go on, get moving. I don't know if it's made. I'm still finding it really, really difficult to articulate myself, to be coherent. It seems to be part of this, like this real confusion, and having moments, like you say, of like, oh, bing, like something, and then it's just back under for a while.
I think, yeah, it's as I say, the better days that I've had have been days where I've kind of just succumbed to this higher wisdom of just, you know, let it be, and yeah, kind of just allowing myself to be and accept, and know that, you know, even though I've not got answers right now, that, you know, I'll find them, you know, of course I always have, so I always will again, like, and to stop beating myself up. But it's a lot easier said than done, isn't it?
Oh,
I haven't quite found that kind of, you know, there must be a switch somewhere in my brain that's like, you know, when I'm having this, like, you know, enlightened state of, you know, being all like, yeah, I've got this, and, you know, calm and peaceful, and, or not a sensible knowing, but just this, you know, a sort of higher self where I'm really kind of, it's okay, it's all right,
Yeah.
all gonna be and then I don't know, the switch goes, but it's like, it's not gonna be okay, it's all gonna go fucking crazy.
I think, well, this is happening for so many of us. And like you said, it is sort of a relief. And we've both said, like, it's not that we want people to be suffering, or, but, you know, knowing that it's not just you. And it, you know, you do feel that kinship. And I do think, you know, despite being up and down, like, I mean, it's just ridiculous, really. In the space of a day, the states that I can enter is just, yeah, I almost get like motion sickness with it. Yeah, I'm still feeling underneath it all that we are heading in the right way.
Oh, yeah.
But
Oh,
there's so
yeah.
much, like we were chatting a bit before, and about how much is coming out. We talked about, you know, the truth being revealed, and
Yeah.
it just seems to have accelerated again.
I mean, it's still at a drip, drip, drip level with half truths and, you know, that kind of thing.
But there's some quite
yeah.
astonishing stuff though happening, isn't there? It's really, if you look at now compared to the beginning of all this absolute shit show, just the backpedaling and the, yeah, I mean, it's quite mind-boggling, really. And it does seem to be really caving in on itself. And I think that is because this whatever's happening here is way beyond the control of whoever these, you know, the power brokers are. They're fighting a tsunami of yeah, that's taking place within consciousness, and we're seeing it does look like they're losing the grip. And it's just a very
Slip.
yeah, but it's very tumultuous. It's just, we said this right from the start, like we're in for a really rocky ride. But when I've been saying that, I've been thinking more of like the kind of physical experience of it all, you know, the hardships and things kind of playing out in that way. It's far more of a spiritual, emotional kind of journey, which that's the rockiest road.
I think it's a bit of both.
Mm.
It's a bit of both. And you sort of have you'll struggle with the spiritual journey, and then life will like kick you in the ass with the physical journey, and then
Yeah, both feed.
no, I sorry, what are you saying?
No, I was just saying they both feed into each other. They're almost, you know, they're not even separate, really. It's just how we kind of like perceive them. But yeah, it's very confrontational. I think that's it. We're being urged, like there's no getting away from it. I think that's what it is. It's like, no, you can't. We've reached that critical sort of point now where you can't escape into the comforts of the world, because there aren't any really.
No, this
Well, you know, there's a few. It's not like it was.
no.
Not like it was, and that seems to prompt, you know, that movement.
But then, you know, in many ways, I think if we weren't pushed out of our comfort zones, then never grow, would we?
No,
So
exactly.
in many ways, you know, in many ways, the tumultuous journey of craziness is doing us all a favor, even though it doesn't really feel like it, that we're all growing into, well, I don't know whether growing is the right word, because it's for me, it's almost like rediscovering who we were meant to be, before the world like dumped all its shit on us, like with the programming and the systems and so I don't know, in one way growing towards who we're supposed to be, but in the same way kind of rediscovering who we are, what our purpose is. And I certainly think for me, if it wasn't for what's happened over the last couple of years, I don't know would I have got there. It's been a massive kind of, trigger's the wrong word, but it is almost this trigger for this massive personal growth. And I've changed so much, down to I spoke last time about I was diagnosed with bipolar 10 or 15 years ago. And so these periods in my mind where it's intense and noisy and overwhelming and disconnected and crazy, it's something I've experienced for like a couple of decades. And actually right now is so different actually to what it has been before, in that I have done a lot of personal growth. I've done a lot of inner work and a lot of kind of when you are integrating your previous beliefs about yourself and the world based on your previous view of the world and yourself within that world, and then learning everything that I've learned over the last couple of years, which again doesn't so much feel like learning as rediscovering. It's almost like I had that knowledge, I didn't know I had that knowledge, and I'm finding it out, going, got it. And it's very different. This one is I feel like I'm keeping my head above water this time. However crazy it gets in my head, that I'm still able to keep my head above water, because there's this innate knowing that actually this is all kind of part of the journey. This is all kind of part of my growth, part of me really becoming who I'm supposed to be, and learning to kind of go through this kind of earthly crap and be able to move through it, integrate it within myself, and kind of come out stronger and more able to cope, and more kind of self-reliant, and kind of just more powerful, I think, in a lot of ways. So yeah, for me, certainly, as much as it's been a really difficult struggle the last few weeks, there is this sense of knowing that it's not really all for nothing. It's not just mindless suffering. It's taking me to places that I need to go to work things out within myself that need to be worked out in order for me to move forward. And that's how I'm trying to frame it in my mind, at least, with this idea of there is significance to it, and that there's that nice about the caterpillar and the butterfly, and being somewhere between, I can't think of what it's called now. I've referenced it and I can't think of that really awesome quote that goes with it. There's things about not quite being a caterpillar anymore and not quite being a butterfly, but being somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, but they sort of basically turn to mush, don't they? So that feels a bit at the moment. They sort of liquefy and become this. Yeah, I think I can.
I don't know, they didn't cover that in the
I can hold my, funny that, isn't it? It doesn't sound quite so inspirational, but I think that's probably about where I'm at, the sort of breaking down into this
so that you can rebuild and emerge as a beautiful butterfly.
That's the next bit. So yeah, heading that way.
That phase is coming.
Yeah, and it's like you're saying, it's like it's all there, and where I'm at with it is it's the unlearning. It's actually the unlearning. We don't have to take anything new on. We don't have to do anything actually, because it's already there. It's all there. It's just obscured. And that's what we're seeing in our sort of collective experience as these human beings, is that the amnesia is almost complete for most of us. And it is that the fear comes from that disconnection of not remembering we're all that has been, ever will be, ever could be. There's no loss, there's no annihilation, there's no, all of these things that we've are at the roots of our fears comes from that amnesia, that collective amnesia. And once that's moved past, it's remembered, then there's no hold over any of us. And the frequency is completely different. Then we're living entirely an entirely different reality. But that's kind of the work, if you can call it that, is just the re-remembering and the uncovering of what's already there, that we're all completely whole, perfect already. There's nothing to add, nothing that's missing. It's just like a mirror covered in a thick layer of dust. It's just the work, if you want to call it that. It feels like it for me at the moment, is that
Yeah, me too.
thing, but just polishing away until it's revealed. And so there's nothing that you need to change into in that sense. Become, the caterpillar and the butterfly, they're essentially, it's the seed is within. They're not two separate beings. They're, it's all there, it's all contained, like the tree, the oak tree's in the acorn. It's just how it manifests, how you're seeing it expressed. And so it's either the dirty mirror or the clean mirror. Is still the mirror, it's still there, it's still all there. And so it takes a bit of the pressure off when when you can really take it in that there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you, never has been, never can be.
Do you know what? That was one of my biggest, like, oh my God, moments when, all of this hit, and I did the whole waking up thing, and it was this, my whole life has been this, I don't fit in here, there's something very, very wrong in the world, like it doesn't feel right, there's nothing about it that is I don't, just this whole not belonging here. And for me, realizing the full ugly truth about the world that we're living in many ways was actually the most helpful thing in the world, because it made me realize there's not actually anything wrong with me.
Yeah.
Like the world is screwed. Like and there was, just this sudden, just like, it's not me. It's not me. And yeah, for me was the biggest thing over the last couple of years that really kind of, I was like,
yeah, it is one of the great blessings to come out of all of this, like I said before, is to meet your tribe,
all the other misfits and weirdos and outliers of society that have all been cast with this black sheep label. And and so I have found that a lot with, that most people, doesn't matter how we see them, but they see themselves, as I've just said, like that they don't fit in, or that, the black sheep of the family, that they didn't quite belong anywhere. And actually, it has been a sense of, yeah, we weren't born to belong in this world. We're here to make a new one.
Yeah.
I do believe that. You know, I think that all of us, there's so many of us that all have essentially the same vision of what the world could be like were it not for these little puppet hands playing us, you know, in the background.
Yeah.
And how wonderful it could all be, and how, you know, we can kind of see, you know, if we work together we can make that happen.
And the vision's
Yeah,
becoming
it's a beautiful,
clearer, I
yeah.
think. The vision of that is becoming clear. And there was always going to have to be a catalyst for this. And it was always going to have to be a massive traumatic event, unfortunately, because of where we're at in consciousness. In other realities, no. Of course it wouldn't have to be that. But for the energy that we're in, there has to be that, the push. And that's the thing, like when you've never felt at home, you couldn't ever get to that restful space, and you're looking around thinking, what on earth is wrong with me? You don't feel that, you know, all the things that you're supposed to aspire to just mean nothing to you. And it's, yeah, to then realize it's not just me.
There's millions of us.
There are so many of us. Yeah, it is a big thing, and it's just riding out this, dealing with the uncertainty, like we've got to all deal with our own shit, really. It's got to the point where
And hold each other's hands through it.
do it, because
Yes, for the most part it's only stuff that we can resolve ourselves. As I said, you know, there's this whole essence for me about personal responsibility, but actually, you know, for what we've built, I mean, a stand in the park, yes, definitely for me, you know, in terms of, you know, the people I've met, not just locally but, you know, nationally and even worldwide, you know, through this is amazing. But in a wider sense as well, we are, all of us in one way or another, whether it's through a stand in the park or through any other things, we are all kind of reaching out to each other. It's kind of like it feels a lot to me like little lights kind of finding light and reaching out to all the other little lights,
yeah.
and kind of all joining hands and going, we've got this. And I've found, certainly over these last few weeks when I've been kind of sharing my struggles, that there are so many people that are just reaching out that hand, and it's like, I know there's nothing I can do, but I've got you. Like, have a hug,
And that's
and
enough
you know, just these
most of
nice
the
words.
time.
And
Yeah, that's enough, isn't it? It's not that anyone can go through something for you, but knowing that you're not on your own. And it's like that 100th monkey effect, isn't it? Like there is that critical mass, and that you get to that tipping point where it's beyond our sort of individual consciousnesses within this. It just will, we all elevate together.
lighting up the world.
Yeah, that's it. So, and there would be no light without the dark.
Well, exactly that.
So yeah, the fighting against what we think shouldn't be is what holds us in that space a lot of the time, where we feel like we're trapped and we've got no power at all. So yeah, it's a tricky one. We're still kind of in it, going through it, but yeah, we're not on our own, and the vision's getting clearer of what we want, of what's possible, and the old ways are looking more and more nonsensical, and just like, why on earth did we think this was okay or normal? It started, I think that's what I'm really seeing, like the shift. I mean, I've thought it for wow, a very, very, very long time. But I can see it in more and more people that are just like, this doesn't make any sense. So
Does it?
no, it really doesn't. It's just, and that shows like a massive shift in consciousness, really. So it's, yeah, it's all good,
It is. It
really.
is. It is. Embrace the journey. Embrace supportive, wonderful, beautiful people in your life. Lean on them when you need to, and hang in there, because this journey's not over yet. And I'm willing to bet that, you know, when we get to a certain point in the journey, and you get to points of it, and it all starts to make a lot more sense. That, you know, perhaps next point, as I said, I had that massive, like, finally all makes sense. Like, maybe this
Oh,
is, you know, just moving towards another point where, you know,
yeah,
we finally go, ah, and you just keep.
yeah. Right, okie doke. Well, the time is running down, so
You know, we've chatted for ages again. It never feels like we've been chatting for as long as we actually do.
no, it doesn't.
Thank you to anyone who's listened to this far in.
You're still with us.
Just our random, you know, natterings of the week.
Yeah. Well, we'll catch up again next week, and just have a good rest of the week, everyone. And yeah, we'll speak to you very soon. So sending lots of love.
Big love, everybody. Bye.